CHO. Much appreciated.
Thank you guys, as always, for having me.
Of course, man. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope People. Happy Friday. I hope you all doing well and living blessed. Lulu, Peter, what's up? How y'all doing?
Things are amazing in Mexico. Hello, everyone. TGIF. Peter, where are you at?
Came out to Puerto Rico this week, so I'm living it up. I got that tropical feel like Ludo. I don't have the garden in the background though, so not as well.
And we're super excited this week to have our guest Reza Muhammad Ali, Head of Business Development for CHK Solutions out of Barcelona. CHK Solutions is a leading global cannabis consulting group, and we met about over a year ago when I was in Sitges in Spain, and one of our folks in our network, Bo, mentioned like, oh my God, if you go to Barcelona, you got to go meet up with Reza. So we were introduced. I came to the club and met you at CHOKO Barcelona, and that's how spent a day with you and learned all about everything that was happening in Barcelona cannabis, and super excited to get your perspective, because we talk about all things US and Canadian cannabis. So your global perspective, especially during this time with COVID and understanding what's happening, is super important. So welcome, Reza. How are things in Spain?
Well, hi everybody. Hi Jacoby. Hi, Oscar and Lulu and Peter. Thanks for having me. Lulu, it was really dope having you over in Barcelona. I feel like the cannabis community, regardless of where you are in the world, you always know somebody who knows somebody, right? And that's how that network just expanded for us. When you had me on the phone just now, you're like, hey, it seems like everyone who goes to Europe, they always say, yeah, you should definitely check out the guys at CHOKO, and CHK Solutions. And I was just really lucky. We were lucky to meet the right people, the right time, and being of the industry from way back, in what we call the black market and the gray market, and slowly seeing it evolve. And we were just lucky to position ourselves at the right time, in the right place, which is Barcelona. And that's where we're based, Barcelona, Spain. And now, cannabis has become a global thing. So we're excited to see how it, takes us in different markets and places that you'd never think of. And more importantly, because the Asian background, I come from a country where it's really illegal, right, from Malaysia. So, there is that personal thing of wanting to get the plant out there to people who need it.
Right on. Well, it's great to have you, Reza. I'm looking forward to diving in a little bit more. I know most of our audience is all American, and we need to diversify. So we need to, hear a little bit more about what's going on over there. But first, Peter, you got anything new for us this week?
Yeah, this week I wanted to put some emphasis on industrial hemp, just because with everything going on post-COVID world, I think industrial hemp is an international opportunity for investment. In particular, I think within the context of Latin America being poised to take over because of its agricultural powerhouse, and because I'm in Puerto Rico today, I wanted to provide a little bit more on that perspective. So just a little quick facts about hemp, particularly hempcrete. The Romans used hemp fiber to reinforce mortar buildings in Roman architecture back in the day. There are some temples and aqueducts found in France even from the 6th century that have hemp infused into the mortar. The properties of hemp are that it's a very strong thermal isolator because it's very airy, and air is the best insulator. And because of that, also that property, it makes it so that it has very strong acoustic buffering capacities. Farmers can grow it in rotation with other crops. It has very low water necessities. 1 acre of hemp can provide as much as 4 acres of trees for paper, for instance. You can use it for hempcrete, or you can use the fiber to create things like ropes, you can take the seeds from the plants and turn that into different food products like protein powders or hemp oil, hemp seed oil. I think in this recovery plan that Congress is trying to pull out this week, hemp isn't part of the conversation, but I think internationally it's going to play a huge role moving forward for sustainable materials and things of the like.
Reza, are you guys seeing a lot more movement in hemp overseas as well?
Oh, Reza.
Okay, unmute.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, in terms of hemp, it is the first entry point for a lot of us in Europe, you know, because cannabis is really taboo. And that's how everyone kind of got into this CBD market, right? Not only just on the, so I think there's because there's a lack of wording, drafted laws with regards to CBD, right? We always talk about industrial hemp, but people started growing industrial hemp everywhere else, kind of fudging on the way they label their product, right? Saying that it's industrial hemp, but actually it's actually CBD flower, right? So there's certain jurisdictions in Europe, for instance, where they don't have the tech, right, to essentially determine whether or not it's actually industrial hemp or whether it's a CBD flower. So what they do is a lot of people, you know, purchase seeds from anywhere, and then they say that they've purchased European seeds of industrial hemp, you know, genetics, and then they just swap them, right? Obviously, this is not all over Europe, but there are instances of people who do that because they want to make sure they get, you know, higher levels of CBD in their crops. And in terms of what you said regarding industrial hemp and the opportunities because of COVID, I could not agree more. A lot of us are very hopeful that, you know, given the looming or already started economic crisis that's been, you know, that's going all over the world, that governments will look at it as a economic lever, right, and taxable income, right? So letting people, you know, open up to industrial hemp or, you know, hemp seeds for feedstock. And we've actually been called upon in some places that are markets that you would never think of, and they said, hey, we want to use this opportunity of COVID to start researching these, you know, the benefits of cannabis and benefits of hemp, and in general, whether it's hemp for CBD or hemp for just industrial fibers.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's awesome. That you're seeing it even out there. It gives me hope.
It does. We have a company that actually, when you talked about how hemp is really airy, we were talking to a guy who just started up a green tech company that does something like hempcrete, but what they've managed to do is to mineralize any plant fiber. And one of the first questions I asked him was, yeah, so what's the best fiber to mineralize? And he said, yeah, well, it's hemp, because there are all these little crevices, you know, and it's really airy, and you can add those minerals in there to you know, solidify it and actually create a really cool building material. So yeah, another cool thing about hemp, right?
Well, and like even you can use it as a base for creating plastics. Even I know the last Prisoner Project came out with some straws recently, made of plastic. So I don't know, there's a whole revolution there, and I really think, like you said, internationally, all these economies around the world need to turn to it because it checks all the boxes. It's sustainable, more sustainable than the materials we're already using. It's restorative in that it helps fix the soil that it's cultivated in, which soil depletion is a huge problem affecting our food supply. And you just create so many different products. Yeah, it's just a win-win. I don't know why people aren't latching onto it.
Well, we all know why. We just don't want to say it, right? I used to work in cement. Okay, so I'll tell you, cement is the most consumed product after water, right, in the world in terms of volume, right? And cement is the most polluting product there is. I mean, for every ton of cement you make 400 kilos of limestone that you cook, you make 400 kilos of cement, but 600 kilos of CO2, right? So, you know, it's not in their interest to switch, right? They make killer margins on cement, right? It's not rocket science, right? You blow up a mountain, take the rocks, crush them, put them in an oven, then you suddenly have this thing called cement, right? So that's the reason why, I believe. You know, and also because people have demonized this plant, you know, whether it's, you know, industrial hemp, look at China, right? China's been cultivating hemp for 3,000 years. And even Japan, like Japan spends an exorbitant amount every year pulling out hemp that just grows wild, you know, and they just don't want it to happen because they've been using the same antiquated laws with regards to hemp as that was implemented from the Americans, actually. You know, the Americans implemented that in, I think, was it in the 1950s, right? When they invented nylon. And they were like, wait a second, let's not let these guys, you know, do hemp, because that would reminisce of the time of World War II, when the Japanese army would tell people to grow hemp to help the, you know, the war effort, right? Because they use it for rope, they use it for textiles, for fibers. And today the laws in Japan are the same as back in 1950 with regards to anything, you know, closely remotely associated with the cannabis plant, whether it's for industrial or for any reason.
Well, I just want to say I love that, because it was truly an international perspective on a problem. Like, wow, that was super cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I took us all around the globe on that one.
Yeah, well, what to do, right? I mean, you got to look at what's happening, you know, on my end of the world, right? Let's just say that we have a lot of potential to grow the plant, but the people who are the decision makers today are not, you know, making the right steps, you know, making the right decisions with regards to how do we even research it. You know, I'll give you the example of Malaysia, right? I mean, because it's home. We've had Thailand right next door, who's been growing in the Golden Triangle, you know, the north of Thailand with Laos and Myanmar. They've been growing copious amounts of cannabis, right? And it just grows everywhere. And Thailand understood the potential, not only of, you know, taxable income, but, you know, of creating jobs, of creating a full industry, because they're known for all sorts of things, for rubber, for palm oil, right? So why don't we look into hemp, right? And everyone knows the bad rep that palm oil is getting, you know, worldwide, right? You know, because they're forcing our good friends, the orangutans, out of their natural habitat, right? And Thailand implemented the law saying, you know what, we'll look at cannabis and we'll let people grow up to 1% THC, right? And clearly these guys were like, okay, so Switzerland's doing 0.5, like 1% THC, maybe we'll do 1% THC as well. And right next door, Malaysia, which is bordering, you know, Thailand, they said, no, we know better. We wanted to do 0.5% THC. And you don't understand the rationale behind it, right? Because you're like 0.5 to 1% THC. If you really consume THC, what's the difference between a 0.5 and a 1%? You know, I mean, let's just say, like, what are you going to do with that extra 0.5%? But what we do know is between a 0.5 and a 1% THC, you will have a lot more cannabinoids that express later on, right? So if you reach a higher level of THC, you might get much higher yields of CBD, and you might find, you know, that little CBG and CBN and whatnot. So in terms of just pure economics, it doesn't make sense to limit someone to do research only at 0.5% THC, especially if it's for research, right? You'd think that they would take, you know, they would understand that if you can plant something up to 1%, that means that you'll have much more options up down the road. Go figure, right?
So Reza, it's like one of the coolest things that when I met you was the fact that, like, with under CH or with CHOKO Barcelona that I met you, which is the social club, we kept on hearing a lot of like rumors about how Spain, you know, what's going on in Spain, is it legal, is it not? And I think the fact that you have a social club where you have so many international people come in, like I keep on saying, like, oh, if you don't know CHOKO and you don't know Reza, you haven't gone and seen European cannabis, which is a true statement.
Yeah. No, like, see, like, I think I was lucky, you know, like the founder of CHOKO, which is Cedric, and he couldn't be on the webinar because he's in the mountains right now, and he said that the coverage was really bad, so he'll be back actually over the weekend, and you know, we're lucky. He set it up with his idea was not to set up another coffee shop like Amsterdam, right? Not a place where you're like, oh, his idea when he set up CHOKO was, I want it to be, by definition, it's a cannabis social club, right? So you want people to socialize. You want to make sure that the service is of a certain level, right? And you want people to understand that, hey, one, we're a private members club, so we can be very discriminatory. Like we can say, when people come in, we can say, no, you don't fit, you know, the general vibe. You know, if you come in drunk, inebriated, you know, or high off your face, we're like, no, because the reason why Cedric built CHOKO is he said, I want to build something that I can show my father, right? I want my dad to be able to come, and I want to basically break down those barriers. I don't want people to think that cannabis is just a massive blunt and, you know, getting really high. And, you know, regardless of whether you do it for medical or recreational, everybody does it for therapy, right? You know, so it was really important for us to set up a cannabis social club that kind of, you know, represented those values, right? In terms of how we want to, you know, educate people on the plant. And we're not about, you know, when you go to CHOKO Barcelona, you'll see we're not about having a pinball machine and having a foosball machine or, you know, having PlayStation set up. You know, I want it to be like cannabis should just be a bonus, you know, in that club. You know, you want to be able to kind of imagine a co-working space. Imagine Soho House, right? You know, you want to be able to have your own little nook and cranny, yet be able to have your cannabis and have great service, right? So that's kind of what we aspired to when Cedric set that up. That was his goal. And then very quickly we realized that, wow, there's a lot more things in the cannabis industry, right? I think the story behind what CHK Solutions represent, where I had business development, was it started out as a dispensary and a social club, and then it became like a brand. You know, we're known for our own cultivation, we're known for our own genetics. And when you know how to grow, when you know how to breed, and you know how to manage a point of sale and a consumption lounge, well, the next step for that evolution was to get into distribution of horticultural equipment, right? And then pretty much teaching people how to grow and how to professionalize the industry. The first company that we started to work with was Triminator. And the story behind that was that we were one of the only ones who were doing dry trimming, because we were cultivating for the dispensary for our members, right? So the premise is, let's give them the best, you know, cannabis, right? We're not thinking like narco traffickers who, you know, their goal is wet trim, let's go, hurry up, get the hell out, bring it out, you know, get it out of here and let's get our cash. We take the time. So first company we signed up was Triminator, because they had invented a dry trimmer. You know, Twister didn't have a dry trimmer at that time, and we called them up and said, hey, can we get one of your machines? Like, you know, and they were like, who are you? We don't even have orders from Europe. Like, no one cares. Like, Europe's not even on a map at the time. And then we said, yeah, well, it should be, because, you know, we're 500 million people, right? So, you know, it's 28 countries. There's a lot of space, a lot of people here. And God knows that we'll be, you know, as soon as, you know, legalization kicks in or some form of, you know, legal framework is established, people are going to become commercial growers, right? And you will need to resort to, you know, equipment to be more efficient and to be more lean. You know, at the end of the day, it's who can manage the cost of goods, right? I mean, you look at the US or Canada. Well, Canada is a great example, right? The LPs in Canada are producing, they've raised a lot of money. And today you see what's happening with a lot of them who have, you know, huge issues with liquidity, who thought that they'd be able to sell their product, their medical cannabis, elsewhere, you know, and clearly they weren't expecting, you know, countries like Germany to say, no, you have to be EU GMP. And it was like, wait a second. So we're not going to be able to sell this to one of the only medical markets that, you know, that's really structured and has a demand. And yeah, so yeah, it's always for us, like I said, it's really about finding the right products that help people grow better cannabis, right, and remain competitive in this ever-changing market. And that was it. We then after that, after hooking up with Triminator, we represent Pure Pressure as well, right? The rosin press guys and from Colorado. And yeah, Cedric met them at MJ Biz one year, and then like 5 months later, they were at Cannabis, you know, to check us out. And it happened very quickly. Today we're working with new LED guys. You know, each segment of the supply chain, we try to find one really cool partner. And we've always looked at you guys, because you can do it in a legal environment and you can test stuff in vivo at scale, right? I mean, guys here, they're like, yeah, I know, I'm a grower. Yeah, no, you're not. You grow 10 lights in a basement, dude. You know? and yeah, it's very easy to manage 10 lights. It's very different to manage 1,000, right? So yeah, that's what we've noticed. And it was a tough one at the beginning, because people didn't understand our products. They looked at trimmers and they were going, man, I have 8 guys that come and they hand trim. What do I care about spending this much money on this machine? And then it took, you know, demos, bringing the machine to them and showing them how it worked. And then, you know, them saying, no, it's not good. I was like, yes, it is. Do the math. And eventually we got traction, you know? So it's been a lot of work, you know, but on the way we met people like Lulu, and then the family just got bigger and bigger.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, your spot, CHOKO, is one of the most beautiful cannabis social or even just cannabis places I've ever been to. It's very elegant. I think Soho House is a really nice comparison because it's, you know, people there are super chill. I do love that you focus on art. There was a lot of beautiful artwork from local artists that were featured throughout your space. And my friend who's from Paris came with me that day, and
Amir.
Amir, and how his mind was blown. He was just like, oh my gosh, this exists here. But the care and the amount of information that you were able to like teach him and educate him in such a digestible way was just really amazing. And that kind of just, you know, kind of highlight you guys are so special. And just having a space that allows for people to come from different to host different folks and to be able to experience that is kind of all the things that we talked about in cannabis, right? It's education, it's friendship, it's, you know, working with people that you meet that, you know, have heart and love towards the plant. So that's one of the reasons, like, I was like, Reza, I'm going to send everyone your way because, you know, you guys are doing good things. And the other fact is, like, you speak multiple languages, you know, and being able to communicate and educate around that. I think your background is a really interesting way. I was like, he's speaking perfect French. He's speaking perfect Mexican Spanish and Spain Spanish. He speaks some Chinese, and like, you have no American accent or you at all. I mean, you have an American accent. So I'm like, where did this guy come from? So
Malaysia, I know you don't hear many Malaysian exports except our prime minister, who made episode 2, season 2 of Dirty Money on Netflix, right? Good job, man. You know, swindled billions, you know. And then what did we do? We produced the movie Wolf of Wall Street, you know. We bought the rights to that. I was like, what? Yeah. So yeah, the Malaysians who export themselves don't generally export themselves in the cannabis industry. Let's just say that. You know, it is very much taboo. And I was very fortunate that I had parents who I grew up all over the world, and because of that upbringing, right? You know, they were always like, yeah, just take the best of every destination that we go to, whether it's their culture, their food, their language, and just remember that, you know, remember your Asian upbringing, right? And then yeah, you know, I'd say for some people in cannabis, like, they've known this their whole lives. Like, I was an Asian kid and I knew cannabis because, yeah, I knew it in college, right? You know, you always hear about it. I studied in Paris. So yeah, Amsterdam was right around the corner. Yeah, we've been to Amsterdam. And my first experience of a coffee shop was not the best one, man. I mean, I walked in and I was like, okay, so the guy in front of the bud tender thinks I'm a tourist, and he's really condescending. And when I ask him, hey, what's that? And what's this? He's just like, you know, and you're like, dude, like, where's the service? One. But then behind, you've got 15 guys who are like on their spring break from Florida, you know, who've come on a plane. It's the first time out of the US. And they're like, oh my God, we're in Amsterdam, rage. You know what I mean? So it was a weird experience for me. And then I went back to Asia and worked in the normal Asian, you know, thing, right? You know, a suit, a tie, worked finance, worked as an auditor, did all these kind of, you know, really standard jobs for Asians, I want to say. And then Cedric, who I met when I was in college in Paris, he already had set up, you know, CHOKO, and he called me up and he said, yeah, I'm setting up another company. I need someone to do business development for me. And yeah, I just packed up my bags and had a long, stern conversation with the parents, you know, who didn't even know what marijuana was. I was like, huh? It's like cannabis, huh? It's like ganja. Oh my God. And that's how it went down, you know? So it was weird. My mom thought I was going to open up I was going to help a marijuana coffee drink store because I explained to her the franchise model. And she was like, oh yeah, like Starbucks, like Coffee Bean, like San Francisco coffee. And then I was like, yeah, but they do marijuana. And then after about 10 minutes, she was like, wait, is it a marijuana coffee drink that you're going to sell? That's what you're moving to Spain for? And I was like, oh my God, no. So it was funny because before it was such a stigma, like at least in my family, you know, like my parents like, oh my God. And I said, look, if I sold beer, right? If I sold a bottle and the machine that's used to bottle the beer, would you have any beef with me for that? And my mom was like, actually, come to think of it, I wouldn't be, you know, against it, right? Or if I sold the machine that packaged the tobacco into cigarettes. Would you have any beef with that? You know, and then she was like, no. So, well, I'm selling equipment that's used in the cannabis industry. Do you have any beef with that? And then she understood. And then thankfully, you know, people send WhatsApp videos to my mom and dad, and there's all this like, you know, CBD education. So they're like, oh my God, did you know that CBG does this? I was like, yes, Mom, I've been telling you, you know? So it's been cool. It's been cool. I've seen a real evolution of how people can be so closed up about it. And with the right education, right, the most stern, most closed up person can actually really open up to it, right? And it actually could become a user as well, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I will attest that Asian parents are a hard nut to crack when you're trying to explain something that used to be very illegal and is now becoming illegal. So, so nice job, Reza. Could you talk a little bit about your business model? I know there's a lot of people that are like still confused and interested about how that works in Spain. Like how am I able to come to your club and be able to, you know, consume and be in a spot that is
well, how to explain it? It's there's a legal void, and that's how associations and cannabis social clubs came about. It started off with okay, it's okay for you, Lulu, to be at home and you can grow a few plants, and you know, private property is sacred in Spain. So no one's going to give you, you know, no one's going to come down on you because you have a few plants in your garden, right? Or, you know, like for your own personal consumption. But then if Peter's doing it and Oscar's doing it and Jacoby's doing it, but it's always in a private setting, then technically under your constitutional rights, you have the right to assemble under the banner of a nonprofit organization or social club, i.e. Lulu, you like chess, Oscar, you play chess, and Peter plays chess. Let's set up a chess club, you know, where we all kind of contribute to this cooperative, I want to say, or association. But yeah, so we're a private members club. That's how it works. I mean, I'm not going to speak for all the establishments in Spain or in Barcelona, but at least how CHOKO Barcelona is run. It's a private members club. You know, the minimum age is 21. And because it's a private members club, you need to have a sponsor. So that's how it works, right? In terms of how you onboard to become a member. So you need someone to sponsor you and vouch for you. If one of them gets kicked out, and you know, if one of your members gets kicked out, you'll get a suspension as well. This kind of thing that happens, you know. So you better bring the right people because otherwise the chain, you know, will be complicated. But no, that's just on the onboarding. But in terms of the association, what happens is it's we have the right to basically dispense, because we're not selling cannabis and you're not coming to the dispensary or the social club to buy cannabis, right? You're here to withdraw your contribution to the club, right? So which means that you contribute in forms of cash or credit, and you top up your account, kind of like PayPal. And then you're not here to buy, you withdraw. So you come to the dispensary and you'll say, I'd like to withdraw this of this strain, you know, and the wording is very important. And yeah, but unfortunately, it's great to have that, but that's why we call it a gray market, because you're allowed to dispense, but there's nothing that, you know, legislates cultivation, nothing that legislates transport, right? So it's still on the basis of kind of like in Holland, you know, where does the cannabis come from? It's immaculate conception. It just appeared out of nowhere, you know? So that's how clubs and associations are allowed to work in Spain.
I also got to sample some of your custom genetics there too. So
yeah, the CHOKO strain. The CHOKO strain is a killer. I mean, that's Cedric's brainchild. I mean, he named the club, then he got the strain. Or was it the other way around? I always forget. But in any case, Cedric came up with the name of the club, came up with the name of the strain, started marketing it, and he was lucky enough to kick some butt at the 2014 Spain Social Cannabis Club competition. So everyone presents it and they won Best Sativa. And then in 2015, they took home as well with the CHOKO strain. They took up Best Sativa at the Bio Cup. So it was an organically grown, fire CHOKO plant, amazing. And we were lucky because Howard Marks, before he passed away, was on the judge panel with Shanti Baba. So Mr. Nice, gave the cup. So that was pretty cool, right? Kudos to Howard. Thanks, man. And that was it. So from 2014, 2015, CHOKO was the fire strain. And then from there, Cedric decided to cross the CHOKO with all the other strains that he liked, and then, go pheno hunting. So we do have, 6 or 7 strains that are proprietary to us, and that we present at various cups. I've lost count how many cups we've won, but we only like showcase, I think, 2 or 3. Otherwise it'd be just clutter. It's like, so some of them just kept in the back office. But yes, our signature genetics are something. Thank you, Lulu.
They were really delicious too. And your bud tenders were super sweet, like really knowledgeable, and like it's a vibe. It's a really, really nice vibe. I'm super happy to have experienced that. So anybody going—
part of the training, it's part of the strict training that we all go through. And I think it's also just common sense, Lulu. When you work at a private members club, you're going to see those guys again. They're registered members, right? So you need to treat them right. You need to understand that. And also what's really important is that we're all numbers. We're a club of members, right? So no one's above anyone else. It's kind of like the beauty of Soho House, right? Regardless of whether you're George Clooney or whether you're me walking into Soho House, they don't care. It's like, have you paid your subscription? Yes. Do you have your card? Yes. Are you still in the system? Yes. By all means, come on in, So, I think it's good that people kind of keep their shit in check, at the entrance. It doesn't matter who you are, how much you make, what your background is, because like the demographic at CHOKO is really eclectic. You have, I think the youngest is 21, but our oldest member was a guy called Carlo Rolando, and he was 86, and then he passed away, so, kudos to you, Carlo, and it was, so we have really, really, I mean, we've had some people, I can't mention all the names because we are a private members club, but we've had NBA players, we've had some rock stars, we've had people that, mass crazy series on Netflix. Yeah, we've had a whole bouquet of people, to say the least.
Yeah, we were texting on WhatsApp. I was about 2 days from catching a flight out there to see everything right before Cannabis. And then the entire world shut down. So I didn't get that chance. But what has been going on since then? I think my flight was March 12th.
Okay. If I recall correctly, Jacoby, we were full like CHK Solutions, the whole team. Where right after MJ Biz, we get into crazy work mode for 8 consecutive weeks to prepare Cannabis, because we always have a stand at Cannabis, and it's was supposed to be our 4th year, and unfortunately, it all got canceled. I remember it was on a Wednesday. I was at the warehouse with our colleagues, and we're all preparing the booth, putting the machines in the truck and everything, and then we received the message, and it was, Cannabis has been canceled. So that was a huge fiasco, because the problem is that the organizers and a lot of people waited to the last minute to cancel, and I think it came from the fact that they were waiting on the government to issue a statement, right? And as you know, governments can tend to take their sweet time in reacting, especially during this pandemic. If the cases that you've seen in the U.S. or anywhere else in the world, for that matter, in terms of the reactivity of governments, they've taken their sweet time. So everything got canceled last minute, and we after that, I think we were supposed to set up on Thursday. Friday was the first day of Cannabis, and on Saturday we were in lockdown. So we just kind of packed up our stuff, and then we braced ourselves. And then I think Saturday was the last day before we shut down the dispensary as well. And yes, in terms of, has this impacted our business? Yeah. We were not deemed, a first necessity in Spain. So we had to shut down from, basically March 16th all the way up to, mid-June was it, before we had something where we could come out again. And for us, it was also I'd say a tough time, because, on the distribution side, a lot of our products, well, actually a vast majority of our products are imported from the other side of the Atlantic, right? So with coronavirus and flights being grounded, and air freight rates going off the charts, it was difficult to import and fulfill our orders. So it's not been easy for everyone here, but it's also given us the opportunity to focus on what can be done, right? And CBD has been booming for the last 2 years. Italy went crazy at one point. because they said, yeah, you can grow up to 0.5% THC, and and that was it. Everyone went crazy because like, what? I can do this? I could never do it in France and Spain and Italy of all places. You'd think, Italy would be the last one, right? But actually, they kind of jumped the gun, and suddenly everyone was looking towards Italy, whereas Spain was still stuck on a 0.2%. But like you mentioned earlier, Peter, with this coronavirus, industrial hemp will be popping up in terms of opportunities and in terms of governments changing the legal framework or at least looking into it. And on the back end of that, it's good because hopefully we'll be able to really penetrate with the CBD products, right? What we've seen now is a lot of American brands are looking at Europe as the next place to look for, or the next place to conquer. There are laws that make it, I would say, barriers to entry that are complicated, and that's normal because, each country wants to be somewhat, I'd say, have some protectionist laws, right, to protect their markets. But there are ways to contract manufacture through different labs, and that's also some stuff that we do, that we've been focusing on during coronavirus confinement, right? Really looking at, okay, how can we license brands? How can we, help brands penetrate Europe? How can we help them on the logistics front? Something as simple as logistics can be something really challenging for companies that, stateside, who've never exported, right? And who've never even drafted a proper commercial invoice, right, for the logistics company. So yeah, we've been busy, but and also very fearful that we might end up locked down again.
So what are some of the things that you guys are focusing on? I know just through our, conversations as friends, you guys are, touching into other markets and different places around the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we started off with distribution of products, and eventually we moved towards distribution of services, right, or service providers, to consult on various projects. We built a network, from our previous careers, because I think if you see our team, we have various nationalities who all lived across the world, and from each and every one of our previous careers, we built networks of people of different industries, right? It could be pharmaceutical, it could be industrial, they could be high net worth individuals, and through that network, and also with the assistance of guys like like Bo or yourself, Lulu, we've managed to secure certain contracts to consult on certain licenses in countries, like I was saying, countries like, Zambia, and then you put me in touch with one of your friends for like countries like Kenya, which is really cool. We've been talking with guys in South Africa for the longest time, for the last 2 years. Colombia is also another great place to look at. Some people that the legislation is evolving quite rapidly over there. Even though people were like, yeah, there's some barriers to entry, like the local, people, in Colombia, like cartels or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I guess you need to know how to maneuver the political red tape, or whatever situation you may find yourself in. But I remember going to Macedonia, like 2 years ago, and I was sent to Skopje, and I was brought to some LP that was like 100 kilometers away from the capital. And yeah, they picked me up in these Maybachs, tinted windows, and they were massive guys, and then we went out to check out one of their greenhouses, and midway through the tour, I made the mistake of asking, that's a really nice greenhouse, but where's the blackout system? And the guy was like, what? What do you mean blackout system? What's a blackout system? And I was like, well, I should tell you, but it's like you can either do one harvest or various harvests a year. And he was like, what? And he called the project manager, and I really thought that he was going to get shot behind the greenhouse. I was like, and they were speaking in Master, like, what? My greenhouse blackout system? What are you talking about? And the guy's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So we've seen pretty much, like clients where we've had to take them, from A to Z, like really hold them by the hand. And they've expressed interest, and we've had, I'm not going to name people once again, but because I did sign NDAs and stuff, but we had clients who came in, they're like, yeah, man, it's like coffee, right? I mean, cannabis is, how hard can it be? And we're like, yeah, that's the thing, you make a mistake today, you'll only see your mistake 3-4 months down the road, and that's really, really, it's a really silly move from your part, so we've got projects in Mexico. So Mexico is one of the markets that we're really looking into. We have one particular country, and I can't name it just yet. Sorry, guys, but it's on industrial hemp and feedstock. But we'll be the only license in that country, so we're consulting on the only license. And yeah, there's some people in Southeast Asia who have also expressed their interest in contracting us to set up some stuff over there. We're still kind of looking into what are the barriers and what's the red tape, you know, because it's always, sometimes in Southeast Asia, there's can be a lot of corruption involved, or you know, you need to know the right people, and so we did do some foray into Asia about 1.5 years ago, because some people called upon our services, but now we're looking again because there are more places like Cambodia, Burma is also looking into it. So yeah, maybe by 2021, let's see, CHK Asia.
I wanted to get some questions in from our audience. The first is, what kind of products are imported into CHOKO?
Nothing is imported into CHOKO. We can't import any THC products into CHOKO. CHOKO is a dispensary, right? So all the stuff that we have at CHOKO is either flower or hash, and that's all exclusively done by us.
Or Immaculate Conception, right?
Sorry?
Or Immaculate Conception.
Exactly, right? Immaculate Conception, let's just say that. I mean, it's all immaculated. It's immaculately conceptualized by us. Immaculately, yeah.
Another one is, how is the U.S. contributing to the global industry, either positive or negatively?
Well, okay. I don't know. I think that the U.S. and I want to say the U.S. because we have been to Canada and seen, you know, and I'm not gonna pick sides here, but we've seen some of the blood in Canada, and we've seen some of the bud in the U.S. And I must say that, generally speaking, the bud in the U.S. is better. So I want to say kudos to the U.S. for that. But to answer your question, Peter, it's really with regards to the equipment. You know, people, like one of the things that our clients say sometimes when we import machines is they go, "It's so expensive. Why do I spend so much money on this machine? It's ridiculous." And I go, and then I'm like, "Oh, you're an engineer. You reversed engineered this like by looking at it." He's like, "No, but I mean, how hard can it be? It's like a drum, and it's like a motor, and it's like four legs." And then I'm just like, "Yeah, but did you take the time to do the R&D, right? Do you have the material to do the R&D? You actually have cannabis that you can test into a machine, because you know it's illegal, right? You know." And then the guy goes, "Oh yeah, I would need a lot of kilos to test my machines." You know, it's just something as stupid as that, you know? So to answer your question of how you guys have impacted the industry positively is, yeah, it's the machinery, the equipment, you know, we love the machinery that you guys bring, you know, like, I mean, we use the different like pots, you know, something as simple as a pot, right? I mean, when you look at the guys from PCS, right, they build these massive pots, right? And you do the numbers, and you know straight away, man, that's going to yield more than 32 on a normal rolling table, or 64, right? And then just that alone, you're like, okay, so I've taken out 32 times where I have to put soil or like whatever cocoa into a little pot, and I'm just doing it once, boom, you know, it's like just that alone is cutting you so many steps, right? Making it easier, making you more lean and more efficient. I'm not trying to take people's jobs away, but I believe cannabis is going to become like any other industry, right? It's like to remain competitive, you need to make sure that your cost of goods is, you know, within market. Otherwise, you'll get trampled by other bigger, you know, leaner companies. So no, the U.S. has what I like also about you guys is you know, because it's legal for you guys, so you can pheno hunt, you can breed, you can do so many different things, right? That a lot of the clubs here in Barcelona or in Spain, or even the coffee shops in Amsterdam, are always dying to see, oh, what's the new strain that's coming out of Cali? You know, what's the one that won Chalice or Emerald Cup or whatever, right? We all know it's all marketing, right? But yes, in terms of your contribution to the cannabis industry, definitely on genetics, definitely on equipment, and guys like, you know, like the high net worth individuals, like those, you know, those like ArcView Group, you know, the ArcView Group, and like Steve D'Angelo, they came to Barcelona in 2017, and Steve D'Angelo came to visit, you know, CHOKO Barcelona. He met Cedric and the rest of the team, and then from that point on, you know, the ArcView Group, you know, people can say whatever they want. You know, some people will say, oh my God, they're just all high net worth individuals and not people of the plant. And I'm like, yeah, but they love the plant, right? So they're using their network, they're using their funds, they're using their, you know, their associates companies in order to better the industry, right? So let's, you know, they're trying to put the right money in the right places to develop IPs and to innovate. So so yeah, we were lucky, man. Like the Americans took us under their wing and opened up a lot of doors, you know, and from that point, just the way you said, Lulu, people called us up and said, hey, remember me? You guys took really good care of us when we were in Barcelona. Well, I've got friends coming. Can you take care of them the same way? And we try to extend the same type of hospitality. So yeah.
Reza, one more question from our audience. You kind of talked about how the stigma changes. It's a slow process of education, whether it's your mom to a regulator, like everybody has this kind of journey. Can you talk about what it's been like in different countries maybe, or different cultures, how you're seeing some of the adoption of the plant?
I like to quote like stories of recent stories, right? I mean, one of the recent funny stories, just that once again, it's family. It was we were at it was like some like family gathering, and I video called my mom, and my mom would take the phone and she would then pass it on to everybody. This is coronavirus, and you know they're out of lockdown. I'm still in my lockdown and no business, whatever. So everyone's worried. And it gets to my aunt Maslina, and she takes the phone and she goes, oh, yeah, how's business? Like, well, you know, the dispensary is closed and, you know, distribution company is slow right now. And she goes, oh, well, maybe you should give marijuana to these COVID patients, right? And I'm just like, of course. And then I use that opportunity to kind of break the taboo and the stigma and say, oh, it's funny that you'd mentioned that, because I read this study that says that, you know, people who take, you know, cannabis or cannabinoids, well, they reduce like the risk of getting, you know, of falling ill, you know what I mean? And then she looks at me and she just goes, huh? No, I just meant marijuana to get people high. And for me, it's like, what? Excuse me, huh? It's like, how can, what? You would never have said this 2 years ago, right? So it was a huge surprise to see someone, you know, my Asian family who are Muslim, you know, and obviously there is a huge stigma. You know, and suddenly really changed. I can't really say that things have changed here in Spain, because they've had this cannabis culture for a long time. Growing up in France, like doing my college and uni in France, I know that France was one of the biggest consumers of cannabis in Europe. So it wasn't really a stigma there. But yeah, I lived in Vietnam, I lived in Thailand, I lived in Malaysia, and in those countries, yeah, like, you know, it's death sentence, right? It's death penalty on if you get caught with cannabis. So I've seen very liberal to very staunch conservative and very very against it. But it's a process, you know. It's really just about sitting down and educating people. That's what we always say, you know, educate the masses, and then you'll see.
If I may, do we have time for one more question?
Sure, man.
I feel like your perspective is like incredible. But as far as like innovations in the cannabis space, whether it's products or cannabinoid formulations or anything like that nature, what innovations do you see coming down the line that you're most excited for?
Well, I'm excited for cannabinoids to become just an ingredient, right? Like that's what we're looking at, right? I mean, we're seeing this trend where now we're talking about nano-emulsified CBD, CBG, and, you know, and you put it in everything, right? And your infused drinks, and like the guys at Vertosa, right? Like Ben Larson and Michael Torrey and Austin Stevenson, those guys, they're really nice guys. We love them to bits. You know, they came out of Cannabis, and then we were talking to them, and then we recently talked to companies in Japan, right? In Japan, like I was mentioning, they're very strict, right? And like for them to even consider CBD is, I would say, not a small step, it's a massive step. It's like it's a huge leap towards something, because for them to even consider it. But the reason why I mentioned this is because I'm looking forward to cannabinoids becoming an ingredient, right? And it's really ensuring some sort of full traceability, right? From seed all the way up to the final cannabinoid. And that's really important, because, you know, look at how, imagine, okay, this Japanese company that we're talking to, they are formulators, right? They're one of the biggest formulators in the world. They make ingredients for everyone, from Unilever to McDonald's to Coca-Cola, right? But they're very strict. And they said, if I cannot ensure chain of custody and I know exactly where everything goes and where it comes from, I cannot build this ingredient, formulate it, and then on-sell it to a bigger conglomerate, right? Like a Coca-Cola or a McDonald's, right? Because I need to ensure, because what happens? It's all about like liability, right? What happens if, you know, something goes wrong, right? No one's going to insure your product. So I'm really excited to see how, you know, we evolve towards talking about flower or extractions or whatnot, and just really talking about cannabinoids one by one, and then understanding what the entourage effect, right? I think there was a think a recent study that said that terpenes had no effect on how cannabinoids actually react to your body. And I thought it was really interesting that terpenes don't touch your CB1, CB2 receptors. And I was reading it, and for me, I was like, damn, that's insane. Like, you know, the whole website of Leafly should be changed, right? because it was all based on like, yeah, flavors and like, you know, the effects. I was like, doesn't mean anything, like, you know. So no, excited to see how we really break down and discover more cannabinoids. At the end of the day, I look at it, you know, when you say breaking the stigma, Peter, you break the stigma by curing people, you know, by helping people understand the plant, understand the effects, understand what type of ailments can be cured with this, or at least not be cured, but if you can just change someone's life dramatically and, you know, ensure that he can, I'd say, improve his way of life, then that's the ultimate goal, right? So yeah, for us, it's finding ways to not just smoke it. It's the, you know, transdermal patches, you know, creams, all these other derivatives of products, because I want my parents are not going to smoke cannabis. My parents are going to have to find a way to take it, right? So that's what I'm excited about.
Damn, Reza, you just dropped a lot on us, man. This was a wonderful
Try to,
hour.
man.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. This is a Friday evening for you. It's a whole different ball game, so we appreciate it, man.
It's okay. Hey, I mean, hey, she booked me like 2 months ahead of time. Like Lulu was like, "Hey, I want you on Dope People," and I was like, "Yeah, well, I'll try to get everybody." And then, you know, they were like, "Wait, Friday? Oh man, I won't be there." So at least you got me. So there you go.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure, and you're obviously a dope person, dropping some dope gems. Thank you everybody that joined in on Zoom. Thanks to everybody that joins on YouTube. Next week, we'll be tackling sexism in cannabis, and there's a lot of that bullshit. So excited for that. Got real conversations going on. So once again, thank you, Reza. It really was a pleasure. Thank you, Peter.
Awesome, guys.
As always.
Wait, and Reza, your brother was on the line, and he was saying that mom is still wondering when you're going to be sending over some of those cannabis drinks that you've been talking about. So
not cannabis drinks. It's Zarek, get it right, Zarek. No, it's like I'm trying to tell my mom that she should start taking CBD drops. I think, you know, and I think that it would do her a lot of good, you know, and not just to calm things down or whatnot. But I feel that, you know, there's so much cool aspects to CBD. And yeah, secretly, I'd like to use my mom as a guinea pig. So
I'm glad your brother joined.
Yeah, my brother, cheeky little guy. Well, at least he's awake. It's 1 a.m. and he's watching this Dope People webinar, so that's cool.
thanks.
Love it.
No, thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure. And if you guys are ever in Barcelona, please holler, okay? And reach out to us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right,
This was the best.
thanks
All
everybody.
right, brilliant.
Have a wonderful
Cheers,
week,
guys.
everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye.